Story 1. I went to the grocery store today to pick up some essentials. Tragically, all healthy options like eggs, yogurt, and spinach. Not exactly my dream haul. On the bright side, I managed to get in and out of the store without any awkward run-ins with people. But as I was walking to my car, I heard an older lady trying to get the attention of one of the grocery store employees who was gathering carts in the parking lot. She was a little closer to the store than where I was parked, in the same row. The employee ignored her, despite her clear attempts to get his attention. Her car trunk was open, and she had a cart full of groceries, so it didn't take a genius to figure out what she needed. I decided to help, walked over, confirmed she needed assistance loading her groceries into her sport utility vehicle, and got to work. It only took about 2 minutes. The entire time, the lady kept thanking me profusely, calling me a nice young man. Now that I'm in my mid to late 30s, I found her compliments flattering rather than condescending. Please, no need to remind me of my age. Once everything was loaded, and I made sure the trunk would close without damaging anything, I grabbed my own groceries and prepared to leave. Before I could go, she stopped me by grabbing my arm, not something I was thrilled about, but I didn't want to make a fuss. She was an older woman, sturdy-looking despite her age, with an air of authority that made it clear she was not to be trifled with. Think matronly, not fragile. She waved something green and papery in front of me and said, "I was going to give this to that young man over there after he helped me, but he apparently couldn't hear me." She rolled her eyes. It turned out to be a $100 bill. Immediately, I protested. "No way, this is yours. I can't take that, it's too much." That's when she gave me a look. You know the one, the look that says, I mean business. "Young man," she said firmly, "if you don't take this, I shall become difficult." Her tone transported me back to childhood, to the kind of voice that meant trouble was imminent. I wasn't about to argue with that. I accepted the money. Just as she let me go, I felt something slam into my side, nearly knocking me over. It was a fully loaded grocery cart. When I regained my balance, I looked up to see a woman in her 40s, wearing oversized sunglasses, standing next to her own sport utility vehicle. She barely glanced at me before saying, "Put this stuff in there. I'm in a hurry." Then she proceeded to start a conversation on her cell phone, completely ignoring me and acting as though I were an employee. Mind you, I was wearing black mesh shorts and a navy blue t-shirt, very different from the store employee's uniform of white button-down shirts and khakis. Even if I had worked there, her behavior would have been rude. But the sheer audacity of this woman left me momentarily speechless. I stood there, opening and closing my mouth like a fish, trying to figure out how to respond. If I escalated the situation, it wouldn't end well. She clearly hadn't spent much time in the gym, but I had, and that dynamic could get ugly fast. Thankfully, I didn't have to do anything. The older lady I had just helped walked over, her matronly aura practically radiating. She addressed the rude woman with a bright tone. "Oh, I didn't realize you'd had both of your hips replaced too." The woman, clearly caught off guard, stammered, What?" "Well," the older lady continued cheerfully, "that nice young man saw me being ignored by an employee and offered to help. Such a kind thing to see these days. Mind you, I've had both hips replaced, and my doctor would be most upset if he found out I was exerting myself like that." "When did you get yours replaced?" "They did mine one at a time a few months ago." The woman looked utterly confused. "I haven't had my hips replaced. I'm just in a hurry, and if you don't mind," she tried to turn away. The older lady wasn't having it. Her smile turned sharp. "Oh, so there's nothing wrong with you. You just couldn't be bothered to put your own groceries in your car. You're simply too good for that." The rude woman started to fumble. Well. And instead of asking that nice young man, you just shoved your cart into him, really?" The woman tried to puff up. "Now listen," she started, but the older lady silenced her instantly with the look asterisk. You know, the kind that says, "we are in public, and you are about to regret your life choices." The older lady turned to me and said sweetly, "Young man, would you please bring her cart over?" I think this nice young lady is ready to put her own groceries in her car. I obliged, pushing the cart over to them and walking away. Now, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, don't spend all that in one place. She gave me a warm smile. I gave her a quick salute, Boy Scout style, though I'm not actually a scout, and made a hasty retreat to my car. As I loaded my groceries, I glanced over and saw the rude woman reluctantly loading her bags into her car, while the older lady supervised. I couldn't help but chuckle. Some people really don't know who they're messing with. Story 2. The story of brick pavement woes asterisk set in the latter half of 2022 in the United Kingdom. Part 1. The issue begins. During this time, I worked at a major tourist attraction that welcomed thousands of visitors every day. A portion of the attraction was located outdoors, and a new section had recently been added to enhance the experience. To ensure the new addition matched the existing theme, a brand new brick pavement was installed. Unfortunately, upper management had a notorious habit of not thoroughly considering all aspects of their decisions, and this situation was no exception. They decided not to install an anti-slip surface on the brick pavement. While the summer had been particularly dry, the weather in the United Kingdom is notoriously unpredictable. We knew that rain, frost, and snow would inevitably arrive, creating a hazardous situation without the anti-slip surface. We raised our concerns with upper management, emphasizing the need for safety measures, but our warnings fell on deaf ears. When winter arrived, bringing heavy rain and freezing temperatures, the inevitable happened. The pavement turned into an ice rink, and chaos ensued. Part 2. The compliance. The first slips and falls marked the beginning of our malicious compliance asterisk. At the time, company policy required us to document every accident or incident using lengthy paper reports. While minor falls often caused by overexcited children were typically ignored to avoid unnecessary paperwork, the icy pavement demanded a different approach. Every slip on the treacherous bricks was meticulously documented. Filling out each report took 15-20 minutes, during which we got to stay in the warmth of the office instead of freezing outside. This was much to the irritation of upper management, who disliked us being in their offices instead of assisting customers. Our lower and middle managers, however, supported our efforts. They recognized how unreasonable upper management's decision had been and even encouraged our actions. The stack of accident reports grew steadily, becoming a physical testament to the safety issues. A lower manager, who was a close friend, later revealed that the pile of reports was measured in inches. I took great pride in being one of the top contributors to this effort. Part 3. The bare minimum response. Faced with mounting complaints, upper management eventually attempted to address the problem. Their solution: they cordoned off most of the brick pavement with unsightly temporary barriers and laid down anti-slip mats along select pathways. While they believed they had resolved the issue, anyone with experience working with tourists could have predicted otherwise. Tourists often disregard rules, and these barriers were no exception. Many visitors, assuming the rules didn't apply to them, ducked under or outright ignored the barriers. Children, being naturally curious and unaware of the danger, would slip through and land on the icy surface. The result? Even more accident reports. Upper management, in response, simply instructed us to better police the area, a laughable demand given the circumstances and our low pay. Part 4. The wake-up call. The tipping point came with a group of schoolchildren. We generally enjoyed hosting younger kids because their teachers usually enforced our guidelines, unlike the more unruly teenage groups. However, our good fortune didn't last. A 7-year-old boy, while playing with classmates, slipped on the icy bricks and fell. He chipped his 2 front teeth and started bleeding, prompting a swift response from our first aid team. Although the child was otherwise unharmed, the sight of his injury was a wake-up call for everyone. The accident and incident report for this event was a masterpiece, co-signed by numerous staff members. It became a rallying cry for lower and middle management, who finally had irrefutable evidence of the consequences of upper management's negligence. Part 5. The Fallout. The boy's injury presented a clear legal risk for the company. His parents had every reason to pursue legal action, and the incident painted a poor picture of upper management's decision-making. Within 2 days, the company miraculously found the resources to install an anti-slip surface over the entire brick pavement. The temporary barriers were removed, and the number of accidents decreased dramatically. Additionally, new tablet devices were introduced, allowing staff to complete reports more efficiently without abandoning their posts. Although our working conditions improved, upper management's reluctance to learn from their mistakes persisted. Their response was too little, too late, and the entire ordeal could have been avoided if they had listened to their employees from the beginning. Epilogue. I eventually left the company for unrelated reasons, as did many of my colleagues who had participated in this act of quiet rebellion. However, for nearly 3 months, we had operated as a united front, proving the power of collective action. The incident remains a bittersweet memory. On one hand, it showcased the frustrating ineptitude of upper management. On the other, it demonstrated how a dedicated team can work together to highlight and address serious issues, even in the face of bureaucratic indifference. Story 3. This happened yesterday. This is more meant as a story than a request for advice, but any advice is welcome. Backstory. We live on a corner lot. The long side of our lot is fairly open, so we obtained permission to plant some trees along the nature strip. They've been in the ground about 12 months and are just starting to get established. A young guy, let's call him Chad, I don't know his real name, who lives across the street seems to have recently bought a Ram 3500. Not wanting to park it in front of his own house, presumably because it's so big, he's decided that he wants to park it along our long property line. Normally, that wouldn't be an issue, except that he appears to want to park it directly opposite the front of his house, and on the wrong side of the road, and keeps opening his driver door into the establishing trees. My wife used to park her car in our garage, but in order to protect the trees, she's taken to parking it on the street next to them, so as to prevent Chad from parking his massive truck next to, and opening his driver door onto them. Chad is clearly angry and petty about not being able to park his truck wherever and however he wants. One time we headed out to go pick up something in the wife's car. We noticed Chad has parked his truck nose to nose with the wife's car. Whatever. We get in, drive off, and get to the end of the road and realize we've forgotten something. We turned back to the house, and within that 2 minutes, Chad had run out of his house, started his truck up, and drove it 1 car length down to where the wife's car was, and parked it there, opening his door onto the small tree again, before running back inside. We're in a rush, and don't want to be confrontational, and pick up the item and drive off again. This establishes the sort of guy Chad is, though. The incident. My wife was mowing the lawn yesterday afternoon. She really enjoys doing garden work and fusses me away anytime I try to help. It's okay, I do all the other handyman projects around the house, and she's happy, so it's an arrangement that works for us. Anyway, the wife is mowing the nature strip. She'd already mowed most of the front lawn, and the nature strip was the last thing to do. Chad pulls up in his truck at this exact moment, nose to nose with the wife's car, gets out, and leaves his door wide open, and goes to fiddle with his jet ski that he leaves on the street parked behind his truck. Now the lawnmower doesn't throw grass. It doesn't have a catcher, but it doesn't have a thrower either. The grass is cut and just drops straight down under the blades. There is a distinct lack of grass on the road side of the curb. Yes, there are some on the footpath, because my wife mowed that edge with the mower half on the lawn, half on the path. But where she runs the wheels along the top of the concrete curb at the gutter curb side, there's next to zero grass at all on the road. Anyway, Chad had his door open for 5 minutes while he was fiddling about with his jet ski, despite seeing my wife already starting on the nature strip. My wife had waited and waited for this guy to close his door, but despite him seeing her there waiting with the mower, he didn't, and with the lack of grass thrown on the road, and how far from the curb he's parked, she thought it'd be pretty safe to mow the strip past his open door. Right? Wrong. She gives up waiting, and runs the mower along the strip past his truck. No grass got in his truck, but her doing this set him off like a rocket, and he's yelling at her. "This is Texas. This is Mirka. You couldn't wait 2 minutes before kicking a whole lot of grass into my truck," and blah blah blah. I should point out that my wife is American. I'm Australian. We have a blended Aussie/us flag in front of our house, but this guy doesn't seem to understand that's what it is, and apparently assumes we're from Russia or something, and he keeps on ranting about how we do things differently here. Clearly, this angry young guy was looking for any justification to spit the dummy and feel justified for going full frothy mouth. My wife calls me out, and she walks away to go find the edge trimmer. After listening to him for about 30 seconds, I didn't want to listen to his nonsense any longer either, so I just turned away, restarted the lawn mower, and ignored him. He then yells out he's calling the police. I say, "Go right ahead, mate, and move away." When the officer arrived, he was mostly switching between trying to look professional and stifling a smile/laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. My wife asked if she should have just pushed his door shut. Officer laughs and says, "No, better not do that, or he might call me out again reporting that you're trying to steal his truck." We chat for a bit, and the officer notices Chad's jet ski isn't locked up, and says that Chad must be pretty naive as there's been some vehicle thefts in the area lately, and an unlocked jet ski complete with a trailer hitch is a very easy target. The officer also points out how badly Chad has parked his truck, and on the wrong side of the road, and says he'll issue a warning to Chad to park properly in future. Officer thanks us for our time, and departs, both shaking his head and chortling to himself over the silly call-out. Conclusion. I personally suspect Chad left the door open in an attempt to create a situation he could escalate on purpose, because my wife's car is parked right where he wants his to be parked. He was itching for any excuse to cause a fuss and to feel justified in doing so. We'd actually ordered security cameras a few weeks back, and they arrived yesterday as well, so we'll be installing them as soon as possible. They have audio as well. We've resolved that if any of this happens again, we'll be taking out a restraining order on the guy using the new cameras as evidence of his hostile attitude. Story 4. Hello, first-time poster, long-time lurker. Decided to post this story as it was my very first Karen. I've had small encounters with Karens in the past, especially when I used to work in retail, but this one definitely takes the cake. Background. Our family had just gotten a dog last year in April named Charlie. He's a sweet, fluffy little boy who loves attention, especially from strangers, the type to approach and ask for them to rub his belly. Prior to having Charlie, our family wasn't involved in the community, just a few hi's to neighbors here and there, but that's about it. However, ever since Charlie has come into our lives, he has made quite a bit of friends in our neighborhood, making him a very popular dog. Anyways, the first incident happened with my sister and Charlie walking. Now, sister and Charlie were walking in a weird grassy area. It's a walkway in between people's backyards. It's a public walkway and lots of people go there to walk their dogs. Sometimes you see dogs outside their backyards by themselves, but nothing to worry about as there are big fences blocking them from escaping or possibly attacking another dog without an owner restraining them. Now this area is not an off-leash area by any means, so of course Charlie is in his harness. Obviously this doesn't apply to the dogs in their own backyard, they can definitely roam as they please. Sister loves taking Charlie there because he loves to say hi to the other dogs, and although they can't really play, he just enjoys seeing other dogs. Now as they go down the path, a golden retriever starts barking at Charlie. No big deal, they are dogs, and sometimes dogs just don't like other dogs. Whatever, the golden retriever was inside and barking from the window anyways. I wasn't with sister, so this conversation is paraphrased. Enter Karen. Your dog is aggressive. You need to stop bringing him here. Charlie is not even barking back, and regardless the dog is inside and is of no reason to be of concern. You always bring him here, and you do this on purpose. I have cameras everywhere, and I caught you. Just to note, the dog isn't even Karen's dog. It was the neighbor's. Go post it on YouTube then. You should just mind your own business. I will, and you are so fat also. Okay, Karen, nice tan by the way. Fast forward to my encounter. Now my sister, of course, warned me of this Karen. Now me and her really didn't think much of it. Maybe just someone having a bad day. Now I start walking Charlie to the same area. So this walkway I should mention is only one way. So you go up the same way and go back down the same way. As I was walking up, I saw a woman and her dog inside their backyard. The woman is on her phone, and at this point I don't even know this was Karen, just thought it was some random lady. Now her dog is inside her backyard, and of course Charlie gets excited. He exchanges a couple of looks with the dog and runs up and down the fence. Dog wasn't really interested. He was an older and bigger dog, just quiet and doing his own thing. Anyways, we continue our walk, and as we go back down, enter Karen again. Keep in mind, I am the only one walking their dog at this time, and I was also on the phone as me and Charlie walk down right when we get to her backyard. She slams open her fence, yanks her dog out, and pushes the dog to get right close to Charlie. Now in my head, from what it looks like, she wanted our dogs to play. Just because she timed it and executed it like that, so I don't immediately notice what is going on until I notice she is filming and start seeing that your dog is attacking my dog. Now I finally realize it's the Karen. The following conversation ensues. I am filming your dog attacking my dog. Karen says. I was confused. What are you talking about? The two dogs are just looking at each other, not even a single bark or growl between them. Just being polite. Get your aggressive dog away from my dog. Are you stupid? Neither of them are doing anything to each other. You are just trying to create something. I am filming. Okay? Film? You can film the dogs not doing anything. Your dog is attacking my dog. You literally filmed yourself taking your dog out of your backyard. To meet the dog you say is attacking your dog? Seriously. Does that even make sense to you? Who in their right mind would do that, if that was actually true? I am still filming. Okay, bye Karen. I called sister to explain what happened, and also told parents. In order to avoid further encounters with Karen, we stopped walking Charlie there. Fast forward a couple weeks, sister gets a call from the police asking about our side of the story. Long story short, sister explains everything to the police, both incidents with Karen. After explanation, the police immediately closes the case, and even goes as far to say we have a sweet dog, and that we can walk Charlie there because it is a public walkway. Crazy Karen thought she actually had something on the video. It angers me how far she went, even when we made the effort to just avoid and not confront. We still don't walk Charlie there even if the police said it's okay. We don't want to risk our beloved Charlie with that lady around. But it felt satisfying that what she wanted didn't happen, and she was defeated. Story 5. About 10 years ago, I applied for a position at a retail store that specialized in selling various types of technology. It was a large chain in the United Kingdom, often bustling with customers, especially after 5 p.m. or during holidays and sales events. When I applied, my primary interest was to work in the computing department because I was passionate about building computers and had hands-on experience assembling my own system. However, I was instead placed temporarily in the white goods section, which involved selling fridges, washing machines, and similar appliances. I had no knowledge of these products and openly admitted this during the hiring process. Still, the management seemed to assume I'd excel in that area simply because I was a woman. Needing the income as a fresh graduate, I bit my tongue and decided to wait for a transfer to my preferred department. After a few months, it became clear that I wasn't going to be moved to the computing department, regardless of my enthusiasm or knowledge. My sales performance was good, but the managers hesitated to transfer me, fearing I might provide incorrect advice to customers. One day, at the start of a new school term, the store became exceptionally busy. A couple came in looking for a computer for their teenage child to use for gaming. I wanted to assist them, being a gamer myself, but before I could step in, my manager rudely pulled me aside. He reminded me that employees were prohibited from helping customers outside their assigned departments. He then fetched a colleague from the computing department to assist the couple. Since my own department was quiet, I busied myself tidying up while overhearing the interaction. The colleague recommended an Apple computer, claiming it was ideal for gaming and heavily favored by professionals. At that time, the store received higher commissions on Apple products, which likely influenced his advice. However, as someone familiar with gaming setups, I knew this was poor advice. Apple computers were not the best for gaming, especially for heavier games that might struggle with compatibility or performance on their operating systems. The couple seemed convinced and purchased the Apple computer. My manager commended the colleague for making the sale and urged me to emulate him. I told him I could have done better and predicted the customers would likely return dissatisfied. But once again, I was firmly told to stay out of the computing department. That's when I decided to comply with the rules to the letter. A few days later, during a busy back-to-school sale, the computing department was severely understaffed because several employees had called in sick. The couple returned, visibly frustrated, carrying the Apple computer they'd purchased. This usually meant they wanted to return or exchange it. They spotted the colleague who had sold them the machine and approached him. However, he conveniently decided it was time for his lunch break, leaving only one other employee in the computing section. The couple, now angrier, joined the queue at the tills, only to be told that refunds for large items had to be handled by someone from the tech department. Frustrated, they approached me for help. While I sympathized with them and wanted to assist, I remembered the strict policy and explained that I wasn't authorized to handle anything related to the computing department. The couple then sought help from other staff members, but were met with the same response. Meanwhile, other customers waiting to purchase items became equally frustrated as the sole remaining employee in the computing department was overwhelmed. In about 20 minutes, a massive queue formed at the tills, with customers angrily demanding to speak to the manager. The store manager and floor managers eventually arrived to address the chaos, attempting to shift blame onto the general staff. I took the opportunity to remind them of their own policy, prohibiting us from assisting in other departments without proper training. The explanation only fueled customer dissatisfaction, leading to a commotion at the tills and significant delays. I'm not sure how the situation concluded, as I was pulled aside by an older customer who needed assistance. However, the aftermath was evident. The store received numerous complaints online about staff refusing to help due to departmental restrictions. In response, the management held several brainstorming sessions to address the rising complaints, but none of the suggested solutions were implemented. Despite the backlash, the policy remained unchanged. The store provided additional training to the existing computing department staff and allowed other employees to sell smaller tech items like keyboards, mice, consoles, and games, but still excluded laptops, computers, and virtual reality equipment. Unsurprisingly, this led to more complaints. The last time I visited the store was to purchase a laptop for my mother using a gift voucher. Even then, the inefficiency persisted. We waited 45 minutes for someone authorized to finalize the sale. Before leaving, I took the opportunity to voice my frustrations directly to the store manager, sharing my thoughts about their rigid and counterproductive policy. Story 6. When I was in high school, I took app classes, and my favorite subject was English. Still is. Went on to get my bachelor's degree in it. For my senior year, though, I was stuck in one of 2 app classes on campus for 6th period. And this one had all the kids I didn't get along with. Some were neutral, some were just the kind of stuck-up that didn't associate with anyone except their friends. But a good portion were active bullies of mine. They would openly mock me, my weight, my social awkwardness anxiety. A couple were even very sexist to me, but not the other girls in the class, ostracized me, and tried to turn the neutral kids against me. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I was a quiet kid and tried not to bother anyone, unless I was attempting to defend myself. I was also being sexually harassed in my 7th period library aid class. This comes into play later. The class was laid out in islands. Each island was made up of 6 desks, and your island was your group for whenever group activities came up. Miss Cindy, the teacher, initially had assigned seats, but since the class was so small, about 26 or so, and everyone knew each other, everyone moved seats to be with their friends. Except me, because I didn't have any friends in this class. My whole island moved away from me, and I sat in the back corner alone, surrounded by 5 other desks. We were reading a book that not very many people enjoyed, and when Miss Cindy announced the big research project for it, everyone had to get into groups with their islands, write a research paper, and give a presentation to the class. The presentation had to be some form of visual medium, PowerPoint, pamphlets, etc., and effort would be taken into account for a grade. She also said that, since the only thing that mattered for the college credit was the grade on the app test at the end of the year, this project would be graded on a curve. I think she was trying to make it easier. Of course, everyone in class groaned. Nearly everyone hated the book, but we dutifully started. I, on my lonely island, started working on my own, but Miss Cindy, trying to give me a fighting chance, told me to go find an island to join. Each other island had at least one open desk. I went over to each island and was promptly rejected. Some did it silently, moving their backpacks or books to the empty seats, basically saying, "You can't sit with us." But the 2 islands with the more vocal bullies basically straight up said they didn't want me. Miss Cindy started to press the issue, but I told her not to worry. I got this. I was hurt, sure. But bullying was not foreign to me. As I said earlier, I was being sexually harassed in my 7th period class, asked inappropriate questions and mocked by 2 other girls. And around this time I was going to administration to get it sorted. So I had a feeling that I was likely going to switch classes. Therefore, the plan formed, I would utterly wreck that curved grade, ruining the assignment grade for the whole class, then dip the heck out. Thus, it began. I wrote the best 10-page research paper of my entire high school career. It only had to be 7 pages, and I made a freaking documentary. Not a PowerPoint, not a pamphlet, not anything easy or trivial. No. This was a 14-minute masterpiece on comparing and contrasting this book with Mark Twain's body of work, namely Huckleberry Finn. Fully acted with me, my younger brother, and his then-girlfriend pretending to be the experts that I quoted in my research paper. Basically, I took the quotes and read them in different costumes that made us look professional and professorial. I narrated the points, edited scenes from plays and movies and pictures and everything I could, including music, effects, Photoshop, everything my dad had taught me about editing videos, and my favorite part, the credits, where everything was made by me. Of course, I credited my brother and his girlfriend for their acting roles, but I did everything else by myself. The day before the project was slated to start being presented, a Wednesday, I was notified that I would be getting my classes switched beginning that next Monday. I would no longer be in either of the toxic classes, and I would be able to be with my friends in 7th period English. Hooray! But I had worked too hard on my stupid revenge, so I was glad to wait the couple extra days. Thursday rocked up, and the presentations are your normal fare. They're fine. But the kids presenting them basically just read off of about 5 slides, 1 per kid on the island. It seems there had been some sort of agreement between them all that, since it was a curve, they'd all turn in around the same quality work and get a good grade. No one had bothered to clue me in on this because, hey, I'm the loser idiot working on a group project alone. No way I'd be able to pull off better, right? Friday comes, and I'm the second to last one. Islands were drawn randomly. I go up to Miss Cindy and hand her my paper and my flash drive. Nothing unusual, most everyone else had brought in a flash drive. But when she plugged it in and I sat back down, she was utterly confused. "Hey, where's your PowerPoint? You need to come up and present." "I don't have a PowerPoint." "You don't have a presentation." "I didn't say that." "Try that. MP4 file." She does. She hits the lights, and my masterpiece is shown. I can see every single other island's reaction. Most were silently grumbly. The 1 or 2 truly overambitious types looked petrified, knowing this had wrecked the curve they'd been banking on. But the best were the vocal bullies. They glared at me, didn't watch a second of the film. They whispered furiously to the rest of their islands, but some of them were shushed because the others were enjoying my documentary. Ha! My work was done, and Monday I was gone. But the grade remained because I had turned it in while I was still in that other class. I got 96%, 100 for the movie, 92 for the paper, and the rest of the class, according to the nice kids in my new 7th period English class who knew some of the kids in 6th, averaged about a C, C+. For some of them, that must have hurt. Some of us had really strict parents, but I wrecked their curve and showed that I didn't need their acceptance. It felt good. I know Miss Cindy used my movie for a few years to show other classes, but I don't know if she still does. The rest of my senior year after the class switch went pretty smoothly, and I got to enjoy it with my friends. Story 7. I am 16 going on 17, with quarantine and everything going on. I know people are on edge, but this is beyond me. Okay, so I work at McDonald's and they closed down the little play place that they closed down due to health reasons. Anyway, I am behind the counter doing my job, taking orders, cleaning spills behind the counter, etc. When this Karen walks in with 5 kids in tow. Now apparently she was having a party for her son who was about 7. Entitled parent, I need about 5 20-piece nuggets and a coffee. I know you have nothing better to do. Now with orders like that you need to call ahead, otherwise you won't get them. Not to mention this lady was so rude with asking, but I suppress the rage and tell her the policy. Me, ma'am, you can't do this. For big orders you need to call ahead. Doing these on the fly slows down everyone else who comes in and orders. Now at this point, I notice the 5 kids are gone and are in the play area. They aren't allowed to be there because of the virus, so I ask her to take the kids out of the play area and leave to call ahead. At this point, I've had about enough because the whole time I was telling her to please downsize her order or leave and call ahead, she would just hurl insults, so I asked once. Me, ma'am, you need to get your kids out of the play area. It isn't open right now. She refuses, of course, and then tells me that it's a play place and her kids are fine. Well, the signs say otherwise, lady, and I have a phone. Note, I was new here and forgot I wasn't supposed to have my phone on me. Me. You have 5 minutes before I call the police. Get your kids and leave now. She waits exactly 4 minutes, and then when she sees me about to dial, she corrals her kids and leaves, not before cursing me out and screaming that I was a failure and would only ever have this job. Yeah, lady, I am the failure, not the woman who is screaming at a 16-year-old to let her kids break the rules.